So, okay, so today we're going to do a very, very simple intro to After Effects. We're going to be making the following animations. So we're going to look at very, very simple keyframe animation. So if this plays, give it a play. So we're going to be looking at position, which you can see at the top, and then rotation, animation, then scale, and also opacity. So that's the first thing we're going to look at after we've had a intro to the general interface, and then we're going to have a look at some very, very, very simple animation presets and a little bit of a background kind of design. So we're going to look at how we get hold of these animation presets we're sort of decoding in, and we're going to have a look at making some sort of background like the one we see in this one here. Some sort of weird, kind of pixely, wobbly kind of thing. So let's get started. Now, when you open After Effects, depending on the version, you'll get something which looks either like this or similar to this, where it's asking you, what do you want to do? Do you want to make a new project or what? So just click New Project, and then it's just going to go away, or you click X. So this is what you start with. So I'll introduce you to the different areas. You've got a toolbar up the top here with a couple different icons, and we'll be going through them lesson by lesson. You've got your project window here, the one that's got a blue sort of line around it. When you import footage and make layers, compositions, you'll see them all in here. So if you import some music or some footage, you'll see them build up by here. Then you've got down the bottom, it'll look a bit different in a moment, but you've got the timeline, so you'll have all your layers here, and this is your timeline as you play through. Then this is your composition window, where you'll see your animation, your motion graphics, your VFX taking place, and where you see the visuals. Then over here you'll have loads of different sort of tools. So if you want to do motion tracking, you've got tracker. If you want to add some effects and presets, you've got them all in here. You can drag and drop them. You've got character and paragraph in case you're working with text. You've got your preview, where you can sort of preview your animation. And so yeah, now if you ever get into an issue where, I don't know, you drag something and it goes in the wrong place, like, oh, my timeline's there now and I can't see stuff, all you need to do is go to Window, Workspace, and Reset Essentials, and then it'll go back to what we got. So let's start. So the first thing we need to do, we need to create a composition. Now, a composition is simply, well, let's make them first. So go to Composition and New Composition. We can give it a name, so we're going to call it, I'm going to call it PRSO, because I'm doing position, rotation, scale, and opacity, or let's call it Keyframe Basics. Now, there's loads of different presets in here. We will be going over sort of resolution, file formats, and all that. All you want to make sure you're ticking is HD, TV, 1080, 25. Okay, that's the one we want. And then you've got something called duration. So let's put it to 10 seconds, and then there's one frame in the end, so let's just go 0. So that's going to be 10 seconds. And the other thing is frame rate. Sometimes this will be set to 29.97 or 30, as we're in the UK, we work off 25 frames per second, so that's what we want to select. Okay, right, then we can click OK, and all of a sudden it's created a workspace for us. It's black at the moment because there's nothing there, but it's created, so think of it as a workspace, and then you can make all your layers down by here and play through. So you've got 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and this is your timeline now. And the composition we made is in the project window by here. So say we've got 5 of them, we can double click and go into different ones. Okay, so as I said, we're going to be animating some position, rotation, scale, and opacity, and I just want to do a simple text animation for that. So up here we've got our text tool. I'm going to click that and then click in here. So I'm going to type position, and I can get this select tool and just move it over here. Now, if I want to change the color or any of the settings of the text, I need to get my text tool and highlight the text, just as you would in Photoshop. Change size. I want to make this not completely white, but something like that. Okay, You've got size, you've got the tracking, which is the spacing between letters. This one will only work if you've got lines of text. Then you've got height of it, you can modify and play around with these, have a go, experiment. Then you've got the paragraph in, but we don't, what this does from Word and everything. So we're going to start animating, okay? Now, obviously, we want to animate just the position of this. Now, with our layer down here, notice when we made the text, it created a text layer, which we've got an eye icon here. We can turn it on and off, just like in Photoshop. Now, if I hit this drop down, you've got transform by here. So you've got position, scale, rotation and opacity, and you've got something called anchor point, but we'll go into that a bit later. And you can see next to each one we've got this little stopwatch, and that'll set a keyframe. So what I want to do is I want to drag this off because I want it animating in like that. Okay, so I'm going to drag this off because this is where it needs to start. Okay, now the way I tell the software this is where I want the text to start is when it's in position, I'll click the stopwatch, and you'll see now that I've got this little blue diamond, and that's saying when this line here is going to play through this line, and it's called the current time indicator, but don't worry about that. So it's saying when the line or time indicator is on this keyframe, this is the position which you want the text to be in. So if we come forward, say 2 seconds, and now you only need to hit the stopwatch once, so if we click and drag, I'm holding shift to do it in straight line as well, click and drag it across like that, you can see it's automatically made another keyframe. So let's go back to the beginning. When it hits this keyframe at the start, it knows that the text has got to be here. When it hits this keyframe, it knows that the text has got to be here. So in between, you can see it moves between the two. So that's pretty simple. So let's go back to there and just move it across a bit more. And then I want to come forward about half a second, maybe 10 frames, and just move it back slightly. Okay, so one way to do it is to hit the page up and page down buttons, and you can move through frame by frame. And then I'm just going to move this maybe, maybe back like that. So now we have it animating in, and then it goes too far and it comes back. It's just like it rushes in. So if we play this through just by hitting spacebar, I want that to come in quicker. Now a way we can do that is I want this action to be quicker. So that concerns this keyframe and this keyframe. They're too far apart. So if I select the last ones, move it up closer, the animation here will happen a lot faster. So let's have a look. Okay, so that's looking a bit better. Could still be faster. Now, what's happening is because my composition is 10 seconds long, it's playing all the way through. So if I move this bit down, this is called the work area, it'll just play this bit. So if I hit space now, you can see it's just going to play that bit. Now, I think these two could come a little closer so that end bit happens a bit faster. And I'm happy with that, I've animated the position. So, I'm going to move on. Next is, let's do rotation. So, rotation. Right, and that's coming in a little bit stretched, so I'll just bring this down like that to, let's just type in, click and type in 100, and let's make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so again, I'm just going to move this into a nice position, and I want to animate the rotation this time. So you can either go, click down, look at the transforms, or quicker way is, we know we want to animate the rotation, so click the layer and hit R, and it'll just bring up the rotation options. So I'm going to go to the beginning, hit the stopwatch, okay, and it's got 0 rotation at the moment, and then come forward by here and about there and push this. I'm going to click and drag it around so it rotates loads of times. Okay, so you can see, let's make this so it goes back, so let's put that to 0, and this number by here is how many times it does a full rotation. So you could just put 4, so it does 4 rotations in that time. Okay, Now, there's a bit of an issue, and we'll have a look at it. Can you see this this dot in the middle, this sort of crosshair? There's dots all around, which, you know, it's for scaling, but you can see this sort of crosshair thing. That's basically where it's going to be rotating from. So you can see it rotates around that point by there. So let's have a look and see how we move it, which is this icon up here, anchor point tool. Now if my anchor point was down by here, the rotation, wait there, why has it gone back? Let's drag it down to here. The rotation, you can see, happens around that point, and that's not good. So we just want to make sure that this anchor point is in the middle. Okay, so it'll rotate around the middle, and that looks a lot better. Okay, so we've animated that, animated some rotation. That's good. Next is scale. So scale, and we're going to move that into position. Okay, now a quicker way to get there, instead of going, you know, transform and then you got scale, a much quicker way is to have the layer selected, hit S. Okay, so I'm going to start this, make sure I hit the stopwatch the first time. So let's start this at 0, and then let's come here, let's put it to 120, so it goes a little bit too big, and then using page down, move forward a few frames, and let's make that 100. So it goes too big and then back down. So let's have a look. Okay, it's happening a bit too slowly. So what I want to do is I'll close down all the layers. If you select them all and hit U, it'll show you all the keyframes on those layers. So I want to make sure that they're all finished at the same time. Position is the timing is right for that, what I like. So I'll just move this rotation one a bit back, move these a bit back, so they all finish at the same time. So now when we play it, they all finish at the same time, which is good. Now the last one I'm going to do is opacity. So click, type opacity. Opacity means, by the way, basically transparency. You know, if you've used it in Photoshop, you'll know. So in order to use the opacity, the shortcut when the layer is selected is actually T, okay, because I think O would do something else or something, and it's just T, so think transparency. So again, we're going to pull that to 0, hit the stopwatch, come to here, set it to 100, and then we'll have that animating in. Okay, and there's one thing I want to show you before we stop. This toggle switches at the bottom. Basically, if you click this, it gives you different options. So it goes 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. Now, if this see how fast this rotation thing's spinning, you'd expect there to be a trail. Like if you move your hand really fast in front of your eyes, there's sort of a motion trail, and we'd expect to see that. So this icon by here enables motion blur for all layers with the motion blur switch set. Okay. If we click that, there's still no motion blur over there. So what we need to do is come to toggle switches, and we want to see that icon for each layer and turn it on. So you can see now, as soon as I turn it on for rotation, it's got motion blur, and so is the position one. Okay, so if this wasn't on up here, it wouldn't work, and if they're not on the individual layers, it wouldn't work either. So now, when we go through, that looks a lot better. Okay, so that's that one. Now, what I'm going to show you next is some basic text animation presets and a nice sort of animated background. Again, quite simple stuff. So let's go make a new composition. Okay, so we can either go composition new, and that's, you know, this little workspace that we created before. So either composition and new, or this little icon down here does the same thing. So let's go with this one, and we got this same window. So I'm going to rename this. I don't know why that's there you go. I'm going to rename this animation presets. Make sure HDTV 1080-25 is what I want, 25 frames per second, 10 seconds is great, and go OK. Right then. So first of all, I want to create some sort of, you know, nice background like the one we saw in the video earlier. So let's go to Layer, new and solid. Okay, all this gives you is a solid color layer, so let's click that and we'll go with whatever color, maybe just green or something. Call this BG for background, and that's all you need to do. And all it does is it gives you completely green. Now it doesn't look that exciting at the moment, so we want to go to effects and presets. If you can't see this on the right, it doesn't matter, you've got effect and all these effects up here. Just make sure, just make sure the layer is selected, and it's the same thing as over here. Now the one I want to use, doesn't matter how you get to it, up here or by here, is called Fractal Noise. Okay, and I know that that is in, oh actually, don't know, not sure where they put that one actually, because I normally search in here, Fractal Noise, that's in Noise and Grain. So if you can click and drag onto there, or if you were going by this way, you go Effect, Noise and Grain, and Fractal Noise, and it does the same thing. Now what you'll notice is you've got your project window by here, but this will have popped up, your effect controls, and it's where you control what's going on here, because this is an effect. So you can alter the contrast, you can alter the brightness, you can alter the complexity, which may be hard to see in the video, but you know, have a play with that yourself. But what I want to do is go to fractal type, and I want to look at dynamic. It'll just do a little different kind of thing, a smeary, swirly, but I like dynamic. And then there's also a noise type as well, so there's a fractal type and a noise type, and I'm going to go with block, and you can see that gives a sort of pixely kind of thing. Now if we play through, you can see nothing's happening here. It looks really, it's still static. So what we want to do is we've got this here, evolution, and if you move that, you can see it's, you know, got like a nice animated ripply effect. So again, this needs to be keyframed. So what we do is come to 0 seconds, hit the stopwatch so it'll set a keyframe, and you can't see it, but if you want to see it, just select the layer and go U, and there it is. So we want to move forward about, let's say, 6 seconds or something, and we want to increase this so there's a change. Okay, so we can either use this one and click and drag, and it's automatically created a keyframe, but I just tend to go for whole numbers. So this is the amount of times, so when you drag this it goes all the way up to 360, I think, yeah, and then once it passes 360 it goes to 1, so it does 1 revolution, yeah, like that. So I just normally go about, let's go 3 whole revolutions, and it's created a keyframe. So let's have a look. Yeah, you got something fairly nice for there. Now, right now it's just black and white. That's boring. So there's one other thing we want to do. Let's go to Tint, effects and presets by the way, and then Tint, and click and drag that onto there. Again, if you were going via this way, it's effect, color correction, and where's Tint? Tint there. So you've got map black 2, and then you pick a color, map white 2. So what that means is all the black areas, you're going to map that to a different color. So if I select, have a look at this black area right here, if I select red, it's going to, anywhere it sees any sort of dark pixels, even, you know, little bits of grey, it'll turn them to a red. So I actually want to go for green, some sort of dark green. Okay, and then map the white ones to, you know, if I went for a red it looks very ugly, but you know, I want to go back to my greens and pick no, actually maybe I want to keep this one black and get a lighter green for this one. Yeah, and we got something, maybe make it a little bit less black, something like that. Okay, and now we've got that effect, and now it's tinted a certain colour. That's all I'm going to do for the background. Okay. I could alter this brightness and contrast. You know, you can play around with that yourself. But we've animated the evolution of it, so it has this sort of animated look. Now, what I want to do next is just add some text. So I'm going to get my text tool, type on top, animation presets, and I have spelled animation wrong. Animation presets. Okay, So drag this across. I'm not going to worry too much about, well, I'm not going to worry at all about typography. We'll be going over that later. But yeah, we got that there. Now, if you come to your effects and presets, let's get rid of the word tint. I don't know if you've got this up here. No, you haven't. So you need this effects and presets window open. If you can't see it, go to Window, and then just make sure effects and presets is ticked, and then it'll pop up. Okay, so at the top you've got something called animation presets. Give that a drop down, and you've got a folder called text. Give that a drop down. Then you've got loads of more folders again, and you want to use, for this instance, animate in. Okay, so click there, and you've got loads of different effects you can drag and drop. The one I'm going to use is Decoder Fade in. Now make sure that your time indicator is at the beginning. If it's not, I'll show you what happens if it's not. So yeah, let's put it to 4 seconds and drag and drop this effect. Okay. Now this automatically comes with its own keyframes. Okay, so hit U and on the layer, and you should see, yeah, it comes with its own keyframes, but don't worry about that. So hit U to hide them. But what you notice is, because my time indicator is here, the animation doesn't start until there. So if you're playing through, you've got 4 seconds of nothing, and then it'll happen after 4 seconds. So you don't want to do that. If you have, you can highlight them and drag them to the start, or you can just delete them and then just go back to the start and drag it back on. But we've got some sort of preset effect on there. And let's delete these and have a look at another one. Let's fly in from the bottom. So you've got, I started there, that's my fault. You can obviously alter where the bottom is, but we'll go into that kind of thing in another session. But just have a play around with these ones. What's pop buzzwords? Is that? There you go. Pop buzzwords. Let's drag that on. Don't even know what this does. Pop buzzwords every 15 frames. You probably have to edit stuff in there. Basically, have a play around. This decoder fade in works without any modification. Did that again. So let's delete these keyframes. Where are they? Okay. Okay, give me a sec. I just need to undo. If you're having problems, you drag an effect on and you can't get rid of it, just do Control Z a couple times and undo it. So I'll put decoder fade on that, and it sort of types in. Okay, so that's all I wanted to show you this session. I tell a lie, it's not. I want to show you how to render. So we've got this is one project where we've got 2 compositions. So think of it like an album has many songs. A project has many compositions. Okay, think of it like that. So I want to show you how to render. Now, what we did in here is we adjusted this work area. So by default, it'll be over here. Okay. What you want to, if we rendered this, it would render 1 second, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you'd have all this extra space on the end, and you don't want that. You may want it 3 seconds long. So, sorry, I just did it without saying. There's 2 ways you can do this. Either put your time indicator to where you want to finish rendering and hit the N key, or you can simply drag it yourself. So let's say you didn't want to start from the beginning, you can click like that and start it later if you wanted to, or the default shortcut for that is B. Okay, right, so that's set. This is the only area we're going to render. Okay, what you need to do next is go to Composition, add to Adobe Media Encoder, and then that'll load up eventually. In the meantime, why don't we set the work area for this composition? And then it pops up, of course it does. Right, let's go back. Yeah, so we've got this one as well. So let's set this to finish just after it's animated in at about 5 seconds. So either click and drag or just hit N. So this will be the only area. And we'll add this one as well. So composition, add to Adobe Media Encoder. And then it should pop up in here. Well, they both should pop up really. So we've got them now. Okay. So H.264 will be the default, and that's what we want to use. So don't worry about anything there. We just want to modify the output file, and that's where it saves to. So I'm going to save it to just for example, I'm going to save it to my desktop, and I've already got 2 on there, so I'll keep this Keyframe Basics, save, and what's this one, Animation Presets, and we'll save that as well. Now if I hit this play button, you'll see at the bottom it starts rendering, and yeah, that's going to be done. It shouldn't take too long. Once it starts, should go fairly quick. So yeah, you can see that's going, and then once they are rendered, you will see them appear on your desktop. Yeah, so we've got Keyframe Basics is already done, and then Animation Presets well on its way. A few more seconds and it's done. And you can see they're both done now. When you're done, just click X and that's fine. Go in, File, Save, save it to wherever you want. I'm not going to save it, but yeah, and then you're good. So I hope you enjoyed the first session. Yes, it was very basic, and you know, wasn't the most glamorous of projects, but we will be building up. Okay, so cheers for tuning in. Thanks, enjoy.